Terminologies in Python. Let's talk about some basic Python terminologies. This is the interactive shell's default prompt, and this is the prompt when we're indenting code. We also call this the ellipsis object. 2 to 3 is a tool that helps convert Python 2.x code to Python 3.x. We have lib2 to 3 in the standard library. An abstract base class is a way to define an interface. The ABC module introduces virtual subclasses. When we call a method or a function, we pass a value to it. This is the argument. We have default, keyword, arbitrary, and positional arguments in Python. The asynchronous context manager is an object that controls the environment observed in an async with statement using the aEnter and aExit magic methods. An asynchronous generator returns an asynchronous generator iterator. This yields a series of values we can use in async for loops. An asynchronous generator iterator returns an awaitable object. This executes the function's body until the next yield expression. Asynchronous iterables can be used in async for statements, and asynchronous iterators implement the aiter and anext methods. An attribute is a value held by an object and accessed with the dot operator. And an awaitable is an object usable in an await expression. Guido is the benevolent dictator for life, and a binary file is one that may hold bytes-like objects and can be read from and written to. Now, a bytes-like object supports the buffer protocol. Some examples are bytes, byte array, array.array, and memory view. The Python source code is compiled to bytecode. This is how a program is represented internally in the CPython interpreter. This avoids recompiling files each time they need to run. A class is a template or a blueprint for creating user-defined objects. It is an abstract data type. When we perform 2 plus 3.3, the interpreter implicitly converts 2 to 2.0, a float. This is coercion. 2 plus 3.3j is a complex number and is made of real and imaginary parts. A context manager is an object that controls the environment observed in a with statement with the enter and exit magic methods. While a subroutine enters at one point and exits at another, a coroutine can enter, exit, and resume at many different points. And the coroutine function returns a coroutine object. CPython is the canonical implementation of Python in C. A decorator is a function that returns another to add functionality to it without modifying it. If an object defines the methods get, set, or delete, we call it a descriptor. A dictionary holds key value pairs, and a dictionary view is an object returned by the keys, values, or items methods. A docstring is a string literal explaining the functionality of a class, a function, or a module. In Python, we say if it looks and quacks like a duck, it must be a duck. This is duck typing. EASP is easier to ask for forgiveness than permission. An expression is a piece of code we can evaluate to a value. 2 plus 3 is an expression. An extension module is written in C or C++ using Python's C API. An fstring is a formatted string literal where we can embed values in a string. A file object exposes a file-oriented API to an underlying resource. It has methods like read and write. And this is a synonym for file objects. A finder attempts to find the loader for a module we're importing. We have meta path finders and path entry finders. Floor division is division that rounds down to the nearest integer. 18 floor divide 4 is 4, not 4.5. A function is a sequence of statements that may return a value to the caller, and a function annotation is an arbitrary metadata value associated with a parameter or return value. Future is a pseudo module enabling new language features not compatible yet with the current interpreter. Python cleans up using reference counting and a cyclic garbage collector. And a generator is a function that yields one value at a time. A generator iterator is an object created by a generator function, and a generator expression is an expression that returns a generator. A generic function is made of multiple functions implementing the same operation for different types. The CPython interpreter uses a global interpreter lock (GIL) to make sure only one thread executes bytecode at a time. If an object has a fixed hash value for its entire lifetime and is comparable to other objects, it is hashable. The IDLE is an integrated development environment for Python. It is interactive, ships with Python, and many use it as a handy calculator. An object with a fixed value is immutable. The path-based finder searches a list of locations when we import a module. Importing is the process through which we make the Python code in one module available to another. The importer finds and loads a module. You can enter statements and expressions at the prompt and immediately execute them and see results. And of course, Python is an interpreted language. On shutting down the interpreter, it releases all allocated resources. An iterable is an object that can return its members one at a time. And an iterator is an object representing a stream of data. It has the iter and next functions. A key function is a callable returning a value we can use for sorting and ordering. And a keyword argument is a named argument that lets us call a function or method with arguments in any order. Stay tuned for part 2 of this discussion on terminologies in Python.